God bless everybody on this wonderful Sunday morning. Welcome to Sunday morning worship with Pastor Lankford Stephens III, Band Fruit Outreach Ministries. I'm excited to bring a word from the Lord today. I'm not going to do no lengthy introductions. I will give honor to my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, to my wife and my beautiful family, to Bishop Curtis Jackson, First Lady Constance Jackson, Better Covenant Evangelistic Ministries, Richmond, Virginia. To all my friends and colleagues, you know who you are. The focus today is on the Word of God. God has given me a word to help us move forward in 2023. And we're going to do it with gladness in our heart, with joy in our heart, and no complaining in our heart. See, these stories in the Bible are to teach us how God dealt with, especially the Israelites. So today we're going to learn from how he dealt with his chosen people, the Israelites. That is what I call a metaphor. That is what I call a blueprint to how God, the expectations that God has for us in this life we live on earth. And some of us don't want to quite get it, but today we're going to get it. We're going to be delivered by it. We're going to take in the meat, throw away the bones, however you want to put it. But we're going to get delivered because it is only up for me in 2023. I'm not going backwards. The only reason you need to turn backwards is to pull somebody who fell behind and missed the mark. Other than that, you need to stay forward. Stay moving forward. So God bless everybody today. I want you to go right into the book of Exodus chapter 16. I'm going to be reading verses 1 through 4. I'm going to give you my subject title, and then we're going to get right into my notes, because I believe that God has a word for somebody today that needs to hear this word. And so let's get right into the word. Exodus chapter 16, starting at verse 1. And it says, "And they journeyed from Elim, and all the congregation of the children of Israel came to the wilderness of Sin, which is between Elim and Sinai. And on the 5th day of the 2nd month, after they departed from the land of Egypt, the whole congregation of the children of Israel complained against Moses and Aaron in the wilderness. And the children of Israel said to them, Oh, that we died by the hand of the Lord in the land of Egypt, when we sat by the pots of meat, and when we ate bread to the full. For you have brought us out into this wilderness to kill this whole assembly with hunger." And the last verse says this: "Then the Lord said to Moses, Behold, I will rain bread from heaven for you, and the people shall go out and gather a certain quota every day, that I may test them." I need you to hear that. "That I may test them whether they will walk in my law or not." I want you to focus on that last part of the verse. It says, "And the people shall go out and gather a certain quota every day," talking about the bread, "that I may test them whether they will walk in my law or not." My subject title is God Tests Us by the Absence of His Presence. God tests us by the absence of His presence. Let's get right into it. The fear of the Lord includes, but is not limited to, reverence and respect. It is to acknowledge Him with the glory, the honor, and the what I call the prominence He alone possesses. when we hold this position in our hearts, we will esteem him and his desire over and above our own desires. We will hate, hear me out, what he hates. We will love what he loves, trembling at his word and in his presence. I believe God will withhold his glory to test and prepare us. You hear what I said? I believe that God will withhold his glory to test and prepare us. And we will fear and obey him, obey him, even when his tangible presence is not manifested. So often, the modern church behaves as foolishly as the children of Israel, rejoicing in his presence and miracles, yet sinning when these things are absent. The Israel were excited when God blessed them. Yes, the Israelites, they were excited when God blessed them and performed mighty miracles for them. Yes, they were. And when God parted the Red Sea and brought them across on dry land and burying their enemies behind them, they sang, danced, and shouted victory. And it sounds like what I call a modern day charismatic service. But only a few days later, when his power was not so apparent and food and drink was scarce, they complained against God and wanted to return to Egypt. Somebody said they wanted to return to Egypt. They had quickly forgotten their captivity and decided slavery had been better for them. In Exodus 16:3. But later, God came down in his awesome splendor on Mount Sinai, wrapped in a dark cloud to shield his brilliant glory. And there was thundering, lightning, and earthquakes. We've yet to see this magnitude, of God's glory. But God had came to speak to the children of Israel and Moses. And now they did not complain or disobey his fearful presence. They were frightened and drew back from his awesome presence. But Moses, hear me out, pleaded with them. Do not fear, for God has come to test you, and that his fear may be before you, so that you may not sin. But notice something about this situation. Notice that Moses' words, that you may not sin. It is very important to note the difference between being afraid of God and fearing God. Okay, you got to know the difference. If people are afraid of God, they run and hide from him. They would not keep his word because they would not know his heart. The people are afraid of God. But the children of Israel retreated from God's glorious presence. And although they promised to keep his word in Exodus 24:13, for 2,000 years, they could not. And on the other hand, the one who fears God, hear me out, but is not afraid of him, will draw closer to him. And so the people stood afar off. But Moses, he drew near the thick darkness where God was in Exodus 20:21. But only as we draw near do we find the strength to obey. I want to bring that to a focus. See, some of y'all running from God, which is going to cause you not to obey his word. But only as you draw near to God, okay? Only as you draw near to God, you will find the strength to obey God. And many parents discover that the children who is the closest to them are the most obedient. And you would think after experiencing this glory that the children who are closest to them are the most obedient. But you would not think after experiencing all this glory that the children of Israel would, let me re-say that. You would think after experiencing all this glory that the children of Israel would obey God, right? After everything that God has shown them, after everything that God had delivered them from, you would think that they will obey him, right? That's the question. But I want to take a sidebar there too. After everything that God has done for you, after everything that he has delivered you from, after all the circumstances and trials and tribulations that he has delivered you from, you would think that you would want to obey God, right? Oh, I want you to think about that for a moment. I'm not trying to rush this word. Think about everything that God has done for you. Think about those who went to prison who got parole. Think about those near-death experiences that God, he saved you, rebirthed you, restored you, put you back on your feet, fixed you up, put you on solid ground. You would think after all of that, you would obey God, right? Wrong. While the Israelites, they drew away, Moses went to the top of the mountain. But with Moses gone, God's presence was not tangible. And what did these people do when God's presence wasn't tangible no more to them? They took the gold God gave them from the Egyptian woman and built a golden calf with it. But it's interesting, isn't it? They took the blessing of God and made it an idol. Oh, somebody got to talk to me today. Have you ever took the blessing of God, what God has given you, that car, that house, that wonderful job you have, that nice bank account you have? Have you ever took the blessing of God and made it an idol? Oh, somebody got to talk to me today. We're going to challenge ourselves in 2023 because we're going to get this thing right. We ain't playing no games with ourselves. Have you ever asked yourself, is it an idol? Can't nobody touch your car. Can't nobody sit in your car. Lord knows. Take your shoes off at the door. Oh, how we forget where we came from. Oh, how we forget that before that you had nothing. And then some of us have the audacity to come from a rough upbringing. Maybe the projects. Where pork and beans and hot dogs and pork and beans were a major meal. Now you frown on a sirloin. Talk about bring me the ribeye only. Ain't it funny how God will bless you and you turn that blessing into pride and arrogance and ungratefulness? Let me get back to my notes. Have we in the church sometimes turned God's blessing into idols? Let's ask ourselves that. Again, it was a lack of fear of God that produced their disobedience in God's absence. Let me stop there for a moment. You want to know why you don't obey God? Because you don't fear God. And some of y'all wait until something happens detrimental in your life before you begin to fear God. But Pastor Stephens here to tell you today, you don't have to wait till you lose the win. Oh, somebody got to talk to me. See, their problem was that they had a problem with complaining. I dare you. I'm talking to you, and I'm talking to myself as well. I dare you act like God ain't enough. Oh, somebody got to talk to me. I dare you get all the blessings of God and get a spirit of arrogance and pride on you like everything else is beneath you. There's some things that complaining does. Y'all know the psalmist said, I won't complain. There's a lot of meat in that song. Good days, bad days, ups and downs. I still won't complain. But complaining is a toxic thing. It's demonstrated right here in the word. You know where complaining comes from? Complaining comes from comparing. Oh, somebody got to hear me. It don't come from nowhere else. Complaining comes from comparing. Whether you on social media, whether you ride down the street and see a car that look better than yours, whether you talking to your girlfriend on the phone or your boys on the phone, complaining comes from what you see and what you hear. And the enemy loves when you complain when he really knows that you already blessed. And you're not wise enough to realize or what I call do a flashback on where you came from. And be so happy and grateful on where you are today. Because you comparing daily, looking at this, looking at that, looking at the Prada, looking at the Gucci, looking at this, looking at social media, looking at drama TV, all these, oh Lord have mercy, all these wannabe lives that you want. And then you look at what you have and start to complain. Girl, he ain't doing this. Girl, I don't have this. Man, she ain't doing this. Man, I don't have this. And all of that stuff comes from comparing. And the Israelites were looking at the provisions, what they thought were provisions in Egypt. Don't you understand that God brought you from bondage to freedom? What does complaining do? Complaining shows a resistance to change. All your complaining means you don't want the responsibility of change. 2, complaining shows weakness in your patience. You don't want to wait on God. You want God to move like a microwave. Complaining shows a lack of trust in God's planning and timing. Ain't no need of you throwing your hands up and talking about glory be to God, and you don't trust in his planning and his timing. We're going to get off all these facades and all this fakeness that we putting up in the churches, out of the churches, or wherever we worship or whatever. We're going to get real with God this year. We're going to get real with ourselves. Complaining is a distraction, an obstacle in the way of getting to the promise of God, the promise that God has for you. See, he was still moving them towards the promised land. But they were questioning his provisions. Oh, somebody got to talk to me. Some of y'all don't move, don't get to where you want to be in life because along the journey, you still complaining about the provisions that God is giving you as you walking towards the promise. I don't know about you, but if I'm still traveling, if I'm still able to move forward towards the promises of God, I don't care if he gave me oodles and noodles or a T-bone steak. As long as I am moving forward in the promises of God, I'm going to be content with God's provisions. Somebody got to talk to me today. Don't be a part of this complaining generation. See? Because a complaining generation is a dying generation. They complain so much, but God did so much. And why is it that the more God do for you, the more you complain about you? Let a man examine himself. You need to really think about that. There are people who don't have not even 1/4 of what you have. Shelter, clothes on your back, job, transportation. There are people who don't know where their provisions going to come from day to day. But actually, they're trusting God more than you. When you have access to it right in front of your face and you still complaining. But God is testing you when he's not in your presence. Don't lose sight of what was promised. See, some of y'all lose sight of what was promised, the promises of God. And that's why you get off track, okay? You can quote scripture all day, but when you lose sight of what God promised, then your flesh begin to go all over the place because you don't believe or you lost sight of what he said he's going to do. He's going to provide for you. He never seen the righteous forsaken or his seed begging for bread. You don't seem to get that in your spirit. So each time that a crisis or a tribulation or a trial come your way, you push reset, you take a back seat to the promises of God, and you don't understand that his promises never change even when you do. Complaining comes from comparing. Somebody say complaining comes from comparing. So I need to stop looking at what others have and complaining about what I don't have. That's one. See, God is trying to make room for more in your life, but you complaining about what's already in you. Come on, somebody got to talk to me. He is trying to make room. He is trying to widen your territory. He's trying to take you from the 1-bedroom apartment to the 3-bedroom townhouse, from the 3-bedroom townhouse to the 5-bedroom house. But every place he places you, instead of you giving him glory during the process and the stages, you complaining on all fronts. And so God is saying today, why should I keep promoting and elevating a complainer? Why should I keep elevating a person who complaining about everything about the job when I can easily let them be jobless? Why should I keep blessing somebody that has a husband or wife when they can easily be divorced and be alone? And for the record, it's slim pickings out here for good people to find good people for your life. So if you got somebody that's good in your life, serving the Lord, you better stop complaining. Because the Lord giveth. Oh, somebody got to talk to me. And the Lord taketh away. Don't miss out because of your mouth. Some of y'all gonna miss out because of your mouth. Israelites, I'm sure God even had more he could have done for them. But some of them missed out. Some of them didn't make it to the promised land because they complained. And the Bible speaks about that because of their mouth. Your mouth, don't let your mouth mess you up with God's manifestation for your life. Oh, yes, it will. Don't let your mouth mess you up with God, okay, or cause you to miss the manifestation for your life. Because your words create a pathway towards the promise. If your words are positive, the promise is close and near to you. But if your words are negative, if you continue to complain, as close as you get, as farther away the promise is away from you. Because God don't need nobody complaining or nobody making him feel like that they're never satisfied with his provisions. Oh, somebody got to talk to me. Stop acting like you are never satisfied with God's provisions. And that's why you can't get that far in life. And that's real, people. We got to be grateful for the pork and beans just as much as we grateful for the steak. You got to learn that you know what? It's all in your flesh. You got to tell your flesh, I won't complain because God has already provided. I am already provided for by God. I won't complain. I'm already provided for. Anything that God do for me right now is added blessings. But I am currently provided for by God. I won't complain. I'm happy with my car, happy with my house, happy with my clothes, happy with my church, happy with my pastor, happy with my wife, happy with my husband. I won't complain. When you feel like complaining, check yourself with a little what I call PSA. Prayer, pray, seek, and ask God what he wants from you. Is this simply a test? You just got to ask him. Are you being resistant to change that needs to happen? And are you getting in the way of God's plan for you, your life, and your family? Ask these questions to yourself. Pray, seek, and ask. Pray, seek, and as when you start to feel the spirit of complaining upon your life. God bless you, and may heaven smile upon you. Remember, God is always watching, and he tests us when we're not in his presence. Take care, be grateful, and make up your mind and put it in your spirit. I will not complain. God bless you.